welcome to the stage, please, Marcel Wanders, Caroline Cundall, Peter Cole, Martina Olbertova, and Stephanie Barcht.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Warm welcome. We just have to work out how to sit. Any preference where to sit? I'll take this lovely seat over here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right.
Have we got enough seats?
We're going to have to.
Well, we can.
We'd like to have a share.
We have one more.
Choose.
Sure. Okay.
Do two on one seat. We can squidge them
Okay,
together.
yeah.
Right. Well, welcome everybody. We just met each other, so and now we're meeting you as well. My name's Stephanie. Thank you for the kind introduction. And indeed, today we're here to talk about what is luxury. What is luxury hospitality in a time where ostentatious signs of wealth are rejected by the new traveller and experience is chosen over excess material? I'm going to let you chew on that one for a while because it really is quite a heavy question, and I'm hoping that we're going to dive into it wonderfully. But first, what is luxury? Where are we today? What is the world? At a time where we're reaching 7.8 billion people in the world, more people are rising up into the middle class. What does this mean for luxury? In a time where our climate's changing, societal values, everything, behavior is changing, what does this mean for hospitality? Does it become more accessible? Does it therefore mean luxury is more accessible for many people? Technology has become an integral part of our lives over the last 10 years. Is it a luxury to connect or to disconnect? How does the hospitality environment help us with this? That's my little introduction. I turn to you. Marcel, what is luxury?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult question, honestly, because I think the word has been used as a marketing terminology over the last, let's say, 100 years, to sell people something or to give them something that maybe today they don't have, something they can aspire to have. We all had two images, and one was an image of the past, right? Can I go there?
No, not yet. There's an order. Because I first wanted to get the ground basis of what we all think luxury is. But yes, we all have two images selected in which we're going to talk about the status quo. So just luxury.
I think it's marketing terminology, and I think it is pretty much meaningless. You can find a luxury watch for 20 bucks. You can buy one for 70. You can buy a luxury watch for... everybody calls these things luxury. At the end, I was interested that at some point we thought about diamonds because they're luxury, and they're interesting because they are always luxury. Because you have a small one, it can be very luxurious, and then you have a bigger one, and it's luxurious for other people. Right, and even the richest of the richest have, luxury diamonds. So, in a way, I think it's a word that I can't work with. In hotels, in the products that we do. I think we talk about comfort, we talk about experience. I wouldn't know how to do luxury in that way.
Okay, that's a point of view. Pardon me. This is your image.
Do you want to?
Caroline.
Shall we go through the images now, or do you
yes, please.
I was going to say, well, the reason I picked this image actually was because for me, luxury is the ability to turn off and to actually, I think that time is a major part now of what luxury is really about. I think things have moved and changed in that way. I know that sort of the turned off concept's been bandied around a lot, but over the years, but in fact I think that current demands of the way that we live actually mean that being able to turn off is actually an extraordinary luxury. I've recently left IHG, which was at the end of December, and I've taken the month of January as a month without the emails and the phone, hence this image. And I was actually amazed at how calming that was. It was the holiday that I haven't taken properly in a very long time. Even though I didn't go anywhere, it was more to do with the fact that it was the turning off time. And to me, that was a massive luxury for me.
So you spent a month without email?
Yes, I kind of, it was, well, apart from personal, but actually, yes. And also, I'd always had two phones, and suddenly to be down to one phone and not having all those demands, it was a revelation. So, yeah.
Lovely. Yeah. Marcel, now you're up again. Excuse me for not getting the order right. You said this is luxury, even though you don't believe
well, it was luxury for the guy that built it, right? I mean, a building that has no functionality, that is just one of the most beautiful buildings and built for love. I think that was, a period where luxury, I think this is luxury, it qualifies, right? I think today if we talk about luxury, we talk about, our world where we basically talk about the big middle class luxury. So and that's the other picture, because we talk about not having this, but the other picture.
Comes later.
Oh, it comes later.
Guys, I did send them an email with a briefing, but it didn't there clearly.
Okay, well then, yeah, well this is luxury.
This is luxury.
For the guy that built it, I think that was luxury. There's no functional need for it. It
rather ostentatious as well, we could say, like the question.
I don't know.
Showy-offy?
Why?
Calling
If
attention?
someone wants to celebrate his love for his wife that died, I mean, he tried to build a black one at the other side of the river, and his son jailed him because not to build it. It would have been beautiful. So just to mirror this building with a black one at the other side of the river, exactly the same building.
Return to you, Peter.
Didn't happen.
This is what you say is luxury.
Well,
today.
this is the
bit.
historical view of luxury, the old view of luxury. So if you think of the evolution from scarcity and what can I get that no one else can get because I have the money, and what can I show you that I can get because I have the money, that's what this image was meant to represent. Of course, this private jet's going to be taxed out of existence, such that you can't do that anymore because it's probably one of the least sustainable ways of travel. But today, I think you see luxury really being more evolved to a place where we've talked about experiences and gaining access to experiences that you can take into yourself and take away with you. But I think it's actually going one step further, which will be represented in the future photo, about not only the experience that you take into you, but the meaning that's in that experience, and how that becomes probably the most important part of what is that meaning and what is it that you search for. And by finding it, that's really where luxury comes in.
And you say this is the old depiction of luxury. Do you think there is a decline in people flying private jets?
I think you're going to. I personally believe you're going to see locations try to make it so. I think those that have the ability to can continue to do so, but I think locations, in order to represent themselves differently, will start to tax, forbid, and do what they can to try to disincent this type of travel.
And why would they do that?
I think from a sustainability standpoint. Now, and sustainability is a really in-the-moment term now, but if you think of purposeful travel, or if you think of responsible travel, that can be anything from not flying a private to taking a train to using a bike to maybe even doing allowing your staff, one of the things that we've talked about, to say, you know what, you don't have to come home tomorrow because you can take a slower mode of transportation. So it's not saying you shouldn't fly, but it's trying to be more purposeful about it.
I like that. The slow lifestyle is also what this welcomes. And Martina, I believe this was your image.
Sure. So coming back to your original question, what is luxury? I actually wrote and published an entire 72-page long report on specifically this question last year. And I was looking at the cultural shifts and how they're sort of eroding and redefining the cultural meaning of luxury, because obviously people and their needs and desires are shifting. I had actually two images. One was the Corinthia hotel lobby and the one in London. And this is obviously the Apple store. What I'm sort of getting at is we are seeing, not just in luxury, but more in the global marketplace and how the dynamics is shifting. What we're seeing is that there's almost like a focus shifting from brands and sort of aspiring to, you know, attain a status and aspiration as we're looking up to brands and trying to be more like them. So sort of like venturing into these aspirational, artificially made worlds. And this notion is shifting towards brands now looking to people and their own authentic values and sort of mirroring them in order to become more like people and identify with the actual values and needs that they already have, and empowering them to become more of their authentic selves. So with the Apple Store or even the Corinthia lobby, it's almost like when you go to the space, it's overpoweringly about the brand's own identity, and it's also very much like the dimension of the space is completely out of proportion to the people in it. So the brand is really towering over the people, making the people feel really small. And yeah, in the other image, obviously, the future vision, I think that that proportion and that focus back to people will be shifted so that people feel more, authentic and actually that it being catered to, and they are being the core focus of attention rather than aspiring to become more like brands, which is an aspiration that is very much, that's very unrealistic and also very much uncalled for, because we shouldn't want to be artificial. We should want to live in a world that, caters to us and makes us feel human.
And so are you implying that these spaces don't make us feel authentic? Do any of you other panel members have an opinion on that?
That's one of the reasons why the boutique hotels have become so much more popular now. And that's been very much a trend in quite a few years now. But even so, that boutique hotels have a sense of being a little bit more human. And there are levels of luxury within boutique hotels as well. There's different stages. But in a sense, that feeling of being a little bit more on that level, do you think that's part of the description you're saying?
I think so too. It's also
part of that influence.
Yes, so that I think there are more factors at play here. One is obviously the big faceless corporations and the part of being in a chain of hotels and sort of having the same, like a globalized, homogenized experience everywhere that you go. That is no longer seen as something that we want, right? That's the sort of feast of early globalization in the 90s. We used to really enjoy that we can get the same Big Mac anywhere in the world. That no longer is something that we really want. We want to feel more connected to who we are, rather than, being a part of big aspirations.
And what happens when these big brands actually adapt to make us feel like our authentic selves? Peter, Marcel, you are working with a lot of hospitality environments. Do you see that's a challenge today? Do your clients say, how do we enable more authenticity in our existing spaces?
So the challenge for us is, if you think of our portfolio, it's 350 hotels, each individual branded, each owned by an individual. The challenge has become that, and I think this picture actually represents it, style and design are now endemic. It's now everywhere. As Klaus was mentioning this morning, it's in everything today. And for us, that actually is, the name of our company is Design Hotels, so it's focused on, a component of using design. But the real factor for us is what's the concept behind the design. And it's easier for us, I think, because each of the hotels is owned by an individual, so they bring their own passion to that concept, which is then represented in the concept and the design and how it's pulled through, which makes it more authentic because it's based on an individual as opposed to someone who decided they wanted to go copy what they thought was really interesting looking. So we feel like that it gives us a nice advantage, but that's really where boutique hotels come to life, is when it's authentic because it's based on someone's own passion.
I think by definition, the things that we do, we are asked to make something that is authentic, right? We are asked to make something that is different and has a personal point of view. We like to find, we like to make spaces that are in place. So if they are in Amsterdam, it feels like you're in Amsterdam. That's a bit complicated because you want to do that with things that at one side are recognizable and at the other side are new. You want to do it in such a way that you feel Amsterdam, but you want to do it in an international setting because it's a hotel. So it's a bit complex complex puzzle that we make every day.
How do you
we do it
overcome that?
step by step. I mean, sorry?
How do you overcome that complexity in the design process?
I don't know. It's something that really I don't know. I remember we did the hotel room for hotel in Miami, and the model room was in New York, and so I knew we were going to see the model room, but I didn't know at what point in time. And so it's a drooly day, and I'm walking from the street in a room, and that was the model room. I had no idea. So I'm walking in there, and I felt I'm in Miami. And really, I don't know how that's done. It was the first time we did a hotel, so I had also not even the baggage for it. But it's kind of it's kind of what designers do, right? They kind of feel stuff. They kind of represent the intangible. They make an experience based on fluff and things and thoughts. Yeah. And really I don't know how I then did it, and I've been thinking about it a long time, and I still don't know. And it's 15 years ago. It's really I don't know. It's really I don't know. But it really I remember walking in that space without understanding where I'm going. But I was in the space and I felt, wow, I'm not in New York, I'm in Miami. I felt it. It's really interesting. And I don't know how.
That's good.
But at the end, it's always about the experience, right? And so we think that, the conversation is about how things are now different than before, because it's now all about experience. Hotels have always been about experience. I mean, you go there, you take nothing except memories. If it's a good hotel, you take a lot of memories. If it's a shit hotel, you take hopefully less, but maybe not even. So you take experience with you. You're stepping into a world that you will be part of for a short time, and then without nothing on you, you leave. It's very much about experience, and only about experience.
And Caroline, I see you smiling over there.
No, I was actually thinking from the design point of view, it's a wonderful thing when things just fall into place like that. And it's so true. It does happen. You get everything in the right place, and suddenly it feels incredible. It's good.
And maybe we can explain. The image I showed here was the Four Seasons in Paris. For me, Paris, still these status locations are luxury. This is, we know this is the George V. It has many Michelin star restaurants under one roof. And here, it's a worldwide brand as well. And how do we then, Martina, you mentioned these worldwide brands, we homogenize. But what I see really is actually, I'd like to challenge that a little bit and maybe ask you, Caroline, your thought on that, because InterContinental is a global brand, yet still you create localization through your designs.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things working with a hotel chain is that it is all about brand, very much. It's not just, the design is actually driven by brand principles and brand and guest expectations and quality of service. All of those things add up. We had at IHG, there's Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express are the main hotel chain that they run, and they're a phenomenal chain for a mid-range style. They suit families, they suit business people, they're very practical. When it comes to the luxury level, there's a completely different level of design, of quality, and of service. Service is probably still the key thing that happens to make a hotel a luxury hotel. And regardless of, I mean, we have a guest expectation with InterContinental for it to be a quiet luxury. It's not about being overly ostentatious. It's more about small details, about calmness, and about... And the other thing with brands is that we had, I found when I was briefing interior design companies on a project, we have a brand one of our brands is Kimpton, and Kimpton is very much a boutique brand, and in Europe we've been introducing it much more as a 5-star brand, as a luxury brand, because we already had our Hotel Indigo as a upper mid-scale boutique brand. And I would find that interior designers were really desperate to do a boutique-style presentation to me. And I'd be looking at it thinking, if only it was the Kimpton, but you're actually presenting for an InterContinental. And actually that was a problem because it wasn't suitable for the brand. And so I think often interior designers forget that they're designing for a brand because they get carried away with the joy of design. But actually the brand is, from the operator point of view, is crucial. Yeah.
And Peter, you also have a worldwide brand that's manifested through many individuals. How do you create the consistency in that brand experience across all hotels?
So we don't. And we do that on purpose. Because the idea is that each individual hotel is its own concept. And they're meant to be their own concept. Now, there is some affiliation or some laddering up to the positioning that Design Hotels tries to maintain, which is a really niche positioning that's focused on future of travel, art, architecture, culture specifically. And so we look at an individual hotel's concept and try to see how it either adds to or takes from and is benefited by the Design Hotel's point of view. But we want each one to be really exclusively focused on what their specific concept is so that they can artfully and authentically represent it for the traveler and be able to talk about it when they're in the purchase phase, when they're trying to discuss and attract that right customer. And that's part of our job, is to help connect them, their own community that they're building with their hotel, to the overall Design Hotels community.
The next image has appeared. I don't know if that was me or someone else.
That was me.
That's your image.
Yeah.
This is now, we're moving towards the future. So we've left the ostentatious displays behind, moving from the Four Seasons. And this, I think, is an eco-lodge in Costa Rica.
That's right. This was, it's Paquere Lodge, which is a hotel well into the rainforests in Costa Rica. Again, I'm working on the concept of luxury as an emotion, and the idea of being able to turn off and to be able to escape. So luxury is escapism. And again, I think this is the future is a lot to do with, is more to do with experience. I think that it is, and again, I still say, service is key. Because you can have a luxury lodge anywhere in these sort of settings, but if it's full of mosquitoes and not taken care of, then it's at a whole different level. And again, even with decent plumbing, that's the other side to luxury too. So yeah, that was.
And you say it's becoming more about experience. Marcel, you mentioned you think it already is about experience.
Yeah, I think. The way I think the whole point of design is that designers think about people, and we think about how they get in, with what reason, and what they do, what they expect, how to surprise them, how to give them something they can speak about to their friends, how to give them a time to not forget. I mean, this is the fundament of design. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't qualify as design. That's just built, and I think those are things that maybe are less thought of as experiences. Although a brand experience is an experience, right? It's even if you repeat it 100 times, it's still an experience. Some people are very boring people. They want the certainty of having the same hotel wherever they go. And I'm happy for these people. I wouldn't like it. Yeah. I'm not going there because I like other hotels. I think designers love to make excellent, beautiful experiences for people. I think this is our job. And again, sometimes we do that in a product, sometimes we do it in a house. In hotels, it is as intangible as it gets. You're supposed not to take the towels, or maybe you do, but if you're not supposed to make it materialistic. You're supposed to leave the towels. Yeah. So there is nothing materialistic about it. I mean, if you do it well, you build something that is amazing for hundreds of people per day for the rest of times, if you do it well.
Yeah. And Martina, in your studies then, if we can say, is this a rejection of ostentatious wealth, perhaps this picture? And is everybody rejecting ostentatious wealth? Or
I actually wouldn't see it as rejection of ostentation. It's the trend isn't anti the past.
Okay.
It's coming back to ourselves and reconnecting with ourselves, so that it can manifest as, you know, rejecting the ostentatious labels and the status seeking and the trying to impress others. But that's only like the mere byproduct of what we're actually doing. You know, because we are so increasingly over-connected, as you said. You know, you felt this strange feeling of calmness, and it's in itself being luxurious when you disconnect it from your phone. Mm-hmm. But it's not the disconnection from the phone, it's actually being able to have, you know, clear thinking for once and not constantly worrying about what other people want and connecting back to ourselves.
Yeah.
So this is becoming the new luxury. And actually, like to your original question, what is it then? Like, what is the new luxury today? What I would actually say, it's not only, well, in branding, obviously, in strategy and marketing, it is about the shift from brands to people. But fundamentally, it's about understanding where the scarcity is today, because value is always fundamentally tied to scarcity. And the more value you have, which luxury is all about, that enhanced symbolic value, the more value you have, the more scarce it needs to be. And we fundamentally have different needs and different desires that are scarce today than we had in the past. So if you look in the past, a lot of people had very little. So therefore, by definition, what used to be seen as luxury was the excess of material wealth, you know, being able to show off, being able to sort of differentiate ourselves from the rest. Now, fast forward 100 years to now, and we are living essentially in an age where those two polar opposites have completely shifted, right? Now suddenly we are constantly bombarded by information. There is an abundance and overproduction of goods, services, brands, advertising, everything, technology, connection. And in this environment, what actually is scarce is time, being able to process your own thoughts, being able to connect back to yourself, understanding who you are as an authentic human being, what you actually care about, and being able to create some meaningful long-term human connections with other people that are not through iPhones or through Twitter, and, you know, actually having things that are long-lasting, have some kind of longevity in time, and that we actually care about. And that's why the meaning is the new luxury.
And how do you create something like that? Peter?
Well, again, I go back to, for us, I feel like it's easier because we're working through extremely diverse portfolio of hotels that are all sponsored by people. And part of, you'll see in my slide later, is about trying to help lead them to where we think the traveler is going to be. And inspiring them to think about what their concept is and how that concept gets represented through the design, through the programming in the hotel, through the things that they offer, be they experiences, but primarily about making sure that I think in the future they need to have a purpose in their concept, and they need to be rather overt about it. And I think that's going to be where the selection in luxury comes. Less about, it's not going to be about price point at all. It's going to be all about what is that purpose that you're trying to put forward in your hotel, and does it align with that cohort of travelers who are looking for something like that.
Can you share one of your favorite purposes from one of your hotels?
So we'll talk about it with the slide, but one piece is spirituality and what that means. And it can be New Age spirituality, it can be reaching back into history from a spiritual standpoint. Another is wellness. So when I say wellness, I'll tell you a story about one of our originals, the owners of the hotel, where he said, look, I'm going to make sure everyone understands when they come and stay at my hotel, they're enabling wellness. They're not coming to get wellness, but they're enabling wellness. And what he means by that is he sponsors a lunchtime hike for the staff of his hotel with the guests to go on, so that the guests know that they are actually enabling the wellness of the staff. So the point of giving back, the giving back part is spending money to stay at the hotel and engaging with staff on a hike. so that he's instilling a wellness point of view with housekeepers and engineers, front office staff, and so on and so forth. So, you know, but that's a very specific point of view. It can be hard to get across, but that's what his mission is, to get that point of view across.
Marcel, when you go on holiday, do you feel like you're enabling wellness?
I mean, this image tries to explain that this whole concept of luxury is a bit of a complex one. I mean, we had the guy that made the Taj Mahal as his luxury expression. We are now basically talking about the world. We are talking about big groups of people, so we talk about the middle class, let's say. And so the wealth of the middle class is that you drink a glass of champagne looking at Taj Mahal. This is the luxury that we get. And there's people that, you know, probably only look at the documentary about India and they will see Taj Mahal from a distance. Luxury is so many different things for so many different people. And so I cannot work with the word. I don't have it.
And what about the word wellness?
Yeah, I think comfort is a recurrent thing. I think what irritates me sometimes, because I really understand why people want to relax, and I really want to understand why people zoom out. I just want to engage. I want to live fully. I don't want to relax at all. I want to be completely on top of stuff. I want to have an exciting life. I don't want to zoom out. Call me. I've got a phone. Nobody even calls me. Like, I'm here. But I know people want it.
Why?
But in my hotels, people go because they're going to love this weekend. They're going to have so much time, so much wonderful experiences. So then there's people like that also. They still exist. And I think they were always there, and they will always be here. I think...
Can we say the people who are most into luxury need to escape the most?
Sorry?
Can we say that the people who are most into luxury maybe need to escape the most, therefore look for the most extreme?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think it's... I mean, yeah.
So this kind of holiday doesn't appeal to you?
No.
Yeah, it's great, but why would you call that relaxing?
Oh, you would like this.
It's super cool. It's super cool. Just walking around in the sun and just feeling the sand and the wind and being with people. It's wonderful, but why would we suddenly say, like, yeah, this is the new thing? Because we didn't love that 50 years ago. We now love it. I always loved that, and we'll always love it, and all of us. There's nothing new about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's ostentatious. You fly from Amsterdam to Timbuktu to run a mountain. It's pretty ostentatious to me, if you want to see it that way, no? I mean, we can look at it differently, because...
And then, of course, part of it is that we share it on social media, which is in itself rather ostentatious. So perhaps we can dive into the influence that technology has on these experiences. Martina, I see you nodding when I say technology. Can you, what about this new generation of traveller who's at the centre of this question and their need for technology?
Well, that's kind of interesting, because it's like an inherent paradox in this, right? We're constantly talking about authenticity and escapism and catering like to ourselves and to our own needs and diving inwards, and then we are, it's almost like we really shifted that status seeking just to another medium. So we're not doing it face to face, we're not doing it on Instagram, because so you can have an authentic experience, but the minute that you share it on social media, it becomes inauthentic in itself, because it's mediated. Yeah. So that's...
So how spiritual is such an experience then? Peter mentioned spirituality being the new thing. This could be quite spiritual. I'm not sure what they're doing. Or
sure. I think it, like, to me, it's spirituality is definitely a part of it. I think it goes even beyond experience to sort of like human transcendence. But these experiences, we always needed them throughout the history. We used to, you know, saturate these needs through religion or community or folklore or storytelling. And now it might as well be luxurious experiences. But anything that really connects us back to our inner essence and to our soul, just because we have so little of it today in the world that we live in, that in itself has become luxurious. But ask someone 1,000 years ago, that's all that they did. It's just that because we are in a society that has become almost over-civilized, that we have become completely disconnected from our essential, you know, beings.
And do you think we're moving towards needing that when we're on holiday, when we're experiencing hospitality?
Well,
or
ideally, we should be able to integrate it in our daily lives, like throughout the whole year. But yeah,
we should.
Marcel's
we should.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Peter, technology. What role does that play for you in creating this spiritual experience?
Well, so I have a personal belief that pretty strongly held that technology is just an enabler. Mm-hmm. We get lost in it thinking it's something else. We get lost in it thinking Instagram is a thing that we really need to live through. But it's really just an enabler. It's just a way to share a photo. That's all it is. Snapchat is literally just a way to communicate back and forth. But we get lost in this idea that it's something. So I think that there will be a growing point of view that technology is the enabler to get you to a place. But once you get to the place, it's not about the technology anymore. It should be background, or it should be how you discover things, but not how you experience them. I think that's a big difference. So this picture, to come back to it, is we have an annual conference. We had 100 hotel owners that we convinced to wake up in the morning after a night of drinking, to wake up early in the morning and do an hour and a half of yoga, followed by an hour-long Ayurvedic breakfast, followed by laying on the floor for an hour doing breath work, and then we made them hike up a mountain to listen to a monk in a monastery chant in Aramaic. And that was our way of saying spirituality is important. You can do things that are experiences, but there needs to be a purpose behind them. And I think that's where the future of experiences get to, and that's really about the exploration of and where luxury, I think, is going.
And I, before this, visited the talk on the augmented reality or something around that theme. Sorry if I don't quote it perfectly. Do you have any experience with that? Augmented reality experiences? Going to hospitality through a digital realm, let's say. With that.
Again, to me, it's all about the discovery. It's about finding things, but then it doesn't help you experience them. Yeah. I mean, even augmented reality, we talk about it being a visual, digital experience, but it's really just about trying to connect to something else. And you're not going to have a real experience unless you actually go and experience it.
Yeah.
I don't ever believe augmented reality hurts travel. I think it kills travel. You know, we've been saying that for years, right? The meeting in a hotel room isn't going to happen because it's all going to be done over telecommunications or visual. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. I think technology is an enabler that helps you discover where you want to go.
Caroline, I hear you agreeing. Yes.
Yeah, actually, I agree, because also I was thinking, you know, augmented reality is actually, I still find it strangely novel. You know, I know it's an extraordinary tool to use for selling houses, for selling property, there's a lot of uses for it that are extraordinary, but there's nothing like the real thing, like actually being there. So I do feel that, I agree. I think I would rather, at the end of the day, I'd still want to be in the place.
So not much of a future for augmented hospitality?
Well, I mean, that's not really what hospitality is about, so no.
I mean, there are fantastic opportunities, right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, we were just doing a project for a company. The project will not fly, so I can speak about it. The idea was to, you can make, this is a shopping street, so we'd had the idea to have, 7-meter tall girls use the street as a catwalk, and to have them walk through the street. Now that's a digital experience, but you're in that street, and you're if you would have your goggles tomorrow, there's these huge models running the street and look inside windows, and then there was a little square which was fenced off as if there was something, and we're like, let's put tigers there. We're going to put tigers in the middle of the city, and we make them twice as big as normal. That's cool stuff, man. I mean, that is experience.
Yeah, that's an
stuff.
experience.
And you have to be there to experience it.
That's
as well.
real, right? But and you can only experience it there. Yeah. So if that's not going to be an influence for all hotels in the world, then I don't know.
But that's all about being in the street and experiencing it, whereas as opposed to doing it from an armchair.
Augmented reality is about that.
Yeah, you've got to be in the place.
And getting an artwork that is big as a house floating in midair for 2 hours, and then it's gone. You have to be there at the right time. It's beautiful. You can do so many amazing things. I think
that's an experience.
That's experience, right? And it's immaterial. It's great. It can be ostentatious even, because it's in midair. It's gone. So it doesn't matter. It's fine. You can do as crazy shit as you can think of, and nobody has to look at it if they don't want to.
And I
like the
think
silent disco concept.
here on the picture we have something quite
that's
crazy.
good. You can't talk to each other, so I don't like it.
Here on the picture we have something quite crazy in terms of an experience.
Yeah,
Martina, I think this is your image.
I only selected this image because this conference is apparently about interior design and spatial design, but everybody else shared what I wanted to share originally. So if I was to envision the future of luxury and reconnecting back to ourselves and authenticity and having sort of like spiritual experiences, I would go much more in your direction or your direction. But I chose this one. This is a fragrance lab at Selfridges that is a concept from a couple of years ago, and I sort of showed it as to juxtapose the two concepts. When you're walking into the Apple store, or even like these ostentatious, lobbies of big hotels with opulent lighting, and you sort of feel like small, and you're visiting a space that is, inherently just feels bigger than life. What I like about this experiment is that first of all, it's a multisensory experience, but the dimensions are sort of proportional to humans, so you don't feel out of place. You feel instantly immersed in the experience around you. You were able to create your own, custom fragrance. So there's this, personal sort of scent element as well. And also, what I like about it is that it creates like a two-way relationship between the brand and the people, right? Whereas if you go to Apple Store, like visit some of the big hotels, it's almost like that relationship is almost one way. It's from the brand to you, but you don't feel in that context. You don't really feel that connection. Whereas here, it's very much a two-way stream.
And I've had, this is a question to all of you, we say the future is. I'm a personal believer the future is now. Anything we can imagine is already happening. Where are we in the transition of hospitality towards what we're discussing today, experience? Do you think it still is majority hospitality environments that are not prioritizing experience, or?
I think right now we're at this breaking point almost. So I don't know if you said it, you said it about the big hotel chains going very like, going sort of
local,
boutique and low-key and much more tailored to cultural nuances and cultural differences. Even the hotel that we're staying at now, the NH, I never know how to say it. Like, is it NH now and how and now? No. It's apparently about embracing the momentum of the now. So all the rooms are sort of using these really nice cultural elements, and it makes you feel instantly, at ease. There's this like spiritual element, and it's very, creative, and each room looks a little bit different. So you can see that the big chains are sort of, becoming much more humanized. So it's less about being a big corporate organization and much more, tailoring their concepts to people and like a niche audiences. So it's already starting. It's just that we need to embrace more of the experiential, transcendental well-being. That soft kind of invisible touch. As you were saying, it's always been about feeling emotions. It's always been about that, but it's very hard to replicate feelings. How do you do that? We need to start thinking about these things.
And if we think that this is now a trend, that now we want experience, can we challenge ourselves to ask what comes after this? What comes post-experience? Peter, do you ever think about that?
Yeah, we think about it all the time in how we try to connect individual hoteliers and their community to a greater global community, and firmly believe that experience is part of the need today to differentiate your hotel, but the only way to do it then is with the meaning and the purpose behind what that experience and how it relates back, first of all, to the concept of the hotel, and believe that the future is really more about further and further niches within hospitality. And there's always going to be mass market opportunities forever. There's always going to be a need for consistency and for ease of travel and on and off the highway and however you think of it. There's always going to be that need. But the future development and real opportunity for connection is going to be through further niche development. And that niche development is about the concept and the purpose and the meaning within that concept and how it's delivered. It's going to be easy to find it. Technology will enable that. But you're going to make that selection. Your hotel will make the selection from the customer based on what you're trying to say to them.
And is there a price point attached to that?
I think it depends. You don't have to have the highest level of price point to have a fantastic resonance with a group of customers. You can have a jungle hotel, you can have a hotel with no food and beverage that doesn't have a high price point, but has a specific point of view that they put forward and that resonates with a cohort of travelers. And that's what you want, is you want to resonate with a cohort of travelers. It's not so much about whether you qualify for stars or you have a certain price point or not.
Mm. This is the image I chose. This is the Svar Hotel in Norway on the Arctic Circle. I think this very much depicts the future is now. This is, you can go trekking in a glacier whilst mountain biking and fishing all at the same time. I'm not sure that's true, but this, I think, builds on what you're saying, Peter, that it's more into that niche. This is the niche of the spiritual discovery, extreme sports, outdoors. Marcel, when you look at a picture like this, what does it make you think in terms of interior design? It's very architecturally dominated.
I've heard a few times that you're kind of afraid of big spaces because it makes you feel small. And so I have to think about that. This is like a very important big thing, right? And it's very much in contrast to its own surrounding. And still, I think it's beautiful. I love small things and small spaces, and I love big ones. I love to be on top of a big building in the city, and watch that city, that big motherfucker, that big thing. I love big things, and doesn't make me feel small.
No, I wasn't.
It makes me feel huge because I'm on top of that building, and it's like the wind's in my hair, and it's like I'm seeing there. I love big and I love small.
Me too. Me too. I love big spaces. I actually cannot stand small spaces.
You call it ostentatious for a reason.
Yeah, the point that I was making is that it's very hard to relate to the brand because you don't really feel like it's for you. It's all about that display, the ostentatious. It's not about the big in itself. It's the big chandelier and the big this and the ostentatious that. And it kind of makes you feel like you're a visitor in a space that is not yours and is not for you.
It is not yours. You're a visitor.
Exactly. Yeah, but you like cannot touch
it is like that. So you're feeling what you should feel. You're a visitor. And you're allowed to be there for a while and to breathe that spirit of that place inside. And I think we all like to go to a place where, it's not us, it's someone else. Sure. I'm visiting that personality, that huge personality, and I'm like, what? This is like a lot of power, a lot of energy. And then I'm going away, and I'm going to sit in my little house and have my little lamp above my table, and I'm super happy, because that's also beautiful. Yeah. And but if my days are all the same, then why would I go somewhere? So I go to places where it's different than my house. I don't understand why people want a hotel that feels like a house, because my house is not so great. I love to go somewhere else. I love to have an experience that is exceptional. And so in my house it doesn't fit the big chandelier, so I want one in my hotel. Yeah. Because I don't have one at home. I want it there.
Yeah. We seek that which we do not have. And on that note, we turn to the audience for some questions. Are there any questions in the audience? Over here. I'm not sure how this works. There is a lovely gentleman with a microphone coming your way.
Thank you. Hello. Yeah. Just a suggestion or a provocation. In looking at images like this, and I think was it in Costa Rica, the cabin, is one of the aspects of the future of luxury about privacy. Mike Zuckerberg said the future is privacy, and there's something in these images that suggests to me secrecy and seclusion. Almost the aspect that you're with a milieu, but no one can see you in this image surrounded by mountains, for instance. I feel like there's an aspect about privileged perspectives or access that is being carried through into this future that I see in these images. Is there any thoughts about that from the panel?
Yeah, I think you're very right. It's one of the things that I think a lot of people like. They like to have the feeling that they are, the king of that mountain for a day. It gives them a ground feeling, and in very different ways, that is a power that we all like. I mean, and we designers are creating that power and make money of it. I mean, beauty is always on the payroll of power. And so here also we sell power and we give it to people for a day and then they have to move. They have to go away. But it's one of the things one of the experiences that the world craves for. And yes, it is not equally shared with all. It's true.
If I could add, I think actually I'd build off of a comment you made, Marcel, earlier, which is the beautiful part about where luxury is going is you have this life cycle of luxury and how it has developed and how it manifests in different places around the world. And you have the ability now to have it mean many, many different things to many people. It's no longer the old Ritz-Carlton silver tray for everyone. Yeah. It's about, Marcel likes really engaging experiences. Someone else may like to be completely isolated and feel the sense of privacy. And this ability to have hotels put forth what they believe and have you try to select it based on what you like is what I think the future is so great about luxury.
Yeah.
Caroline, Martina, any perspective on that question?
Yeah, actually, I think that I did actually pick that image because I was looking for something that suggested quiet and contemplation. I was really looking for a feel of the atmosphere of escapism, which was very much what I think is, again, it was to do with the breaking the phone at the beginning, and then the opposite of that being that luxury of being able to cut off and break away and actually go somewhere that's very quiet and to be able to avoid all the modern world, because sometimes things do get too much, and actually that is, I think escapism is part of what luxury is now about.
And do you think that is, we've said a lot we, and I always find it difficult to know who the we is that we're talking from. Do you think we have a prejudiced lens here on stage, and is it actually true for the many that they want to disconnect, or is
I don't think it's, well, I think you made a very valid point there about the fact that it's not just, it's the different experiences, Some people's idea of getting away is to have more fun. Yeah. And some people's idea is to go and read a book. So I think and I think that it's widening the options.
Yeah.
Celebration of diversity. Any more questions? No. Okay. Then we will carry on conversing. We have about 5 minutes left. I'd like to touch on the topic of sustainability, since it is such a trend at the moment. And the question itself implies that we choose experience over excess material. Marcel, what does sustainability do to you? Let's start with
not calling it a trend. Because trends, they start and they end. So, the designers have always felt they want to create things that they can be in love with, and that are intelligent, and that have, meaning. I think there's a lot of things that were not kissed by designer minds that are completely ridiculous and superfluous and just do nothing to the world except spoil it. I think I'm really happy that we designers talk about sustainability, but a lot of design, most designers want to make out of nothing the most for the longest time. All designers want to use as little as possible to create as much as possible value for as long as possible. This is what design is about. Design is fundamentally, if it's well practiced, a very ecological activity. If it's well practiced, but you make it an object that really people love, and they will never get rid of it because they love it. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it, but let's not talk about it as a trend. It's something that is inherently built inside design. We want to make things out of thin air, out of nothing, that are super meaningful forever.
And I'm happy for your reaction because, of course, I myself am a sustainability specialist in many fields, so I don't believe it's a trend. But if we go back to Peter's picture, for example, the private jet, you know, it's true that sustainability hasn't been at the foremind of our societal development over the last 100 years.
Not at all.
So it is now really appearing, and unfortunately, we do call it a trend, for provocation in this case. But how do we make sure that it's not a trend, and how do we embed it into our everyday? Peter, Caroline, Martina, what do you think about that?
Well,
put you on the spot.
I have to try and think of it from the hotel side. One of the things I've felt for a long time is that actually, well, for example, we took over a brand recently in the UK where we had to go in and make, again, from the brand point of view, make an existing hotel look like our other brands. And actually, it had been renovated not that long ago, so it seemed ridiculous to get rid of things. And I hated the idea of getting rid of things, but we went to a lot of effort to keep as much as possible or to reuse things in the way that we could. There was a lack of, for example, in this particular hotel, they'd used bedside tables that had fabric covers over them, and the hotel was desperate for drawers. They had a lot of guests who would stay who wanted drawers to use, and there were no drawers in the room, and they were finding it a problem. So in the end, we actually had to, but we managed to find a company who would take the tables and repurpose them. So it was a little bit like, and I felt that was really important. It was a really integral part of the actual, not just the, I think hotels really need to take responsibility of how they dispose of things as much as how they buy things.
I would say there's only one other word that's more overused than sustainability, and that's now community. But if you, that's, I think, part of the issue with sustainability
Community.
right now. Everyone talks about sustainability, and it means everything, and it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So I think of it as, and to build on what Catherine said, it's about what's important. So it doesn't have to be that you're going to have every single thing you can imagine as sustainability in your hotel. It has to be the things that you personally think are important, whether you're the general manager or you're the owner or how it is. I was having a conversation with one of our hoteliers who said, for me, he said, luxury, I'll know if I failed the moment I see a strawberry from Costa Rica in my hotel in France. That I know I've failed. Because to him, it's super important that he doesn't fly fruit around the world, because that's the thing that he thinks is the most wasteful. So it doesn't have to be every single piece of his hotel, but he needs to decide what's important to him and then go for it, regardless of the moniker that he puts upon it.
And of course, it's an extremely complex topic to navigate, because as you say, it's an umbrella term, but carries many specifications that we don't talk about, from people to carbon to waste to circularity, that whole thing. Martina, in your studies, have you found any specifications what this new generation likes, particularly around sustainability? We've heard the word community. Related to luxury, then, in your papers.
Sustainability related to luxury. I don't think I particularly have an answer to that question, but the point that I would like to make about sustainability is that, as you said, it's not a trend. It's only, if you look at like how culture works, things happen in waves, right? Just because we are going for far too long one direction, there's this breaking point, and suddenly we are moving in a different direction to sort of balance out how far we've come the one way, right? So in that sense, sustainability is only a logical answer to 100 years of excess. You know, it's an answer to, you know, balancing out the excess of material society. So we need to start thinking about, you know, finding the answers to all the wrong things that we've created, basically. And businesses need to tackle that issue on a a strategic basis. It cannot be about, putting green apples on a table. It's not that little detail. It needs to be an absolutely integrated part of the business proposition.
I must admit, I'm quite excited by some of the products that have been coming to the surface in the last few years, though, that are to do with recycling or ways of reusing things. I think there's been a lot of really interesting new products, particularly in actually one of the things I saw recently was some rugs that have been made from recycled plastic bottles in India, where they've got a massive problem of having too many water bottles, but they will inevitably have them. And finding a use for that that's just a material that feels and looks amazing. I think that's there's been a really wonderful movement in the world for finding new ways to do things with things.
Marcel, I see you thinking very intensely.
Yeah, about
1 minute
things.
left.
Yeah, but one at a time. One at a time. I mean, one of the things that really I read, it's maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I read an article about a son of Jacques Cousteau. Jacques Cousteau, on the water, makes movies. And he's the grandson. And he says, it was about him. And then in only one part he's saying something about his granddad. And he's basically saying, my grandfather always used to say, as a kind of, motto for what he was doing, I guess, people will always defend what they love. And I thought it was so beautiful that the work of a man that, he's been making movies that we've all enjoyed watching, right? Well, why he did it, nobody knows. But then he says, people will always defend what they love. So it's super action, non-aggressive. It's just making people love things. And to me, it was like, it's so interesting. If we as designers can just make things loved, that would be a great ecological step.
3 seconds left. I think that's the perfect way to end. Thank you, all of you, so much. Make more things we love, and luxury is diverse and customizable. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline, Martina, Marcel, Peter, and Stephanie.